to Griner's shoulder. No.
I realize that's a harsh way to start, but if you stick with me, you'll see why I argued that the WNBA doesn't deserve Caitlin Clark by the end of the film. Right in front of them stands the most captivating, marketable, and revolutionary athlete in women's professional basketball history.
Clark is playing defense. Brittney Griner lowers the shoulder and clocks her in the jaw. Like, I'm sorry, this is the shit that Conor McGregor did to Cowboy Cerrone that broke his face. Like, she drops her shoulder and then turns it in. Like that.
A once-in-a-generation talent that brought their league out of obscurity and into the public eye on their own. And instead of shielding her, erecting a wall around her, and ensuring that she can truly play the game she's revolutionizing, they continue to give rival players unrestricted access to knock her around with no accountability. One game after another. Season following season. Hit after hit.
Brittney Griner throwing elbows at Caitlin Clark. Brittney Griner shoving Caitlin Clark. Brittney Griner just can't help herself. She has periods throughout the game where she just acts aggressively. Dare I say, too aggressive? Brittney Griner was letting Caitlin Clark know, hey, Caitlin, you ain't part of this club. You ain't part of this club. No matter what you say or what you do, just know you will never be part of this club.
And now, Brittney Griner and a moving screen that is so evident, so obvious, and so impossible to miss that you really have to wonder if the refs were watching the same game as everyone else are responsible for the most recent chapter in this continuous disaster. Griner used a moving screen to assess Clark's shoulder. Caitlin fell to the ground as a result of the contact. What about the referee? The one has a front row seat to the entire play, right in front of it. Not a whistle, not a phone call. Nothing. There was only silence as Clark got up off the hardwood, and the play continued in the opposite direction. Again, the internet went crazy. The fans went crazy. And, to be honest, they all had every right to.
Brittney Griner getting away with murder last night against CC22. Oh, Lord. How is this not a moving screen on Griner? Caitlin can't get a foul to save her life. Let's take a look, shall we? Ooh. Brittney put a little extra in that. A little extra elbow.
Since some folks will view that and claim it's simply basketball, let's examine exactly what transpired. Contact takes place. No, this was not that. Before making any touch with the defender passing through, the player laying a legal screen in basketball must have both feet firmly planted on the ground and their body still. The rule is that, from the moment they pick up a basketball, every player in our league is taught that. Brittney Griner moved her whole body into Clark's path while she was still moving. Before Clark could even adjust, she moved her shoulders straight into him. That is an offensive foul from a textbook. It's a turnover. That was a call that ought to have been made right away. There was the referee. There was not a bad angle. The view was unobstructed. That whistle didn't blow for no apparent reason at all.
They're into somebody is a flagrant foul, as seen by this. As seen by this one right here. Caitlin Clark literally got called. She did the same thing. She turned her shoulder, except got someone in the chest on the screen, and it was given as a flagrant foul. If, like, you might say, oh, it's the same difference with Brittney Griner, so it should be a flagrant one. First of all, it was a no call. It was a no.
This is what makes it even more difficult to accept. During a 36-minute game against Griner's squad, Clark did not make any free throws. 0. Tell me how fair officiating is achieved when a player walks to the free throw line 0 times while being struck by moving screens, bumped, hacked, and shoulder-checked all night long. It doesn't. It is unable to. The referees consistently refuse to acknowledge the story that the stats reveal, and it is consistently supported by the replays. The score sheet is the only item that pretends this is regular basketball, because there is nothing typical about what Clark has had to go through out there. Furthermore, it has been happening for far too long for anyone to continue referring to it as coincidence.
Griner's elbow extending. And this wasn't called the moving screen? That's interesting. Caitlin Clark set a screen just like this against the Golden State Valkyries, and they nearly wanted to throw her out the game. But the referee, I think the referees are scared of Debo Griner. Big old Britt Griner. The refs are scared of her, but also the refs understand the assignment. Nah, you let Caitlin Clark get roughed up.
Let's now take a closer look at Brittney Griner in particular, because the history between Griner and Clark is far more nuanced than a single harsh play, and this moving screen is not an isolated incident. Griner fouled out of a game against the Indiana Fever back in May 2025. Ordinary stuff, huh? However, cameras captured what seemed to be Griner aiming something unpleasant at Clark as she left the court and headed toward the bench. Overnight, the video went viral on all platforms. People were in disbelief. The animosity that had obviously been growing between Griner and the league's top player was brought to light by the days-long dispute over what was actually spoken. Later, Griner spoke out about the incident, claiming she was upset about a foul call and denying using any derogatory language. The problem is that the harm has already been done. Fans were unwilling to overlook the aggressive acts on the court and the image of a seasoned player seemingly aiming animosity toward Caitlin Clark. Clark has the phrase "Griner hates Clark" began to gain significant traction on the internet at that point. It was no longer merely a fringe viewpoint. It was in style. Fans of Fever were incensed. Supporters of Clark were making connections on social media rather than merely responding to a single video. They were focused at the physical plays. They were constructing a case because of the blatant contact, the missed calls, and the seeming attitude. We are not here to put words in people's mouths or assert motives that we are unable to substantiate. However, we can say with absolute sure that the series of incidences involving Griner and Clark has resulted in a connection that is not at all what any professional sports league ought to tolerate. There's a problem. It is visible to all. The frustration has been exacerbated by the league's ongoing silence on the issue.
Brittney Griner walks into Caitlin Clark and just shoves her, and then got called for a foul. So Caitlin's just trying to, like, how exactly is a foul on Caitlin Clark? Like, how exactly is that a foul on Caitlin Clark? Response is that we're younger class artists. Let's not be crazy here. Freedom movement rules, you can't block a cutter, which is what she tried to do. Again, exactly what she tried to do. It doesn't matter. If Brittney Griner walks into Caitlin Clark, yes, she bumped the cutter. That is a foul on Caitlin Clark.
This is what genuinely excites people, and with good reason. The WNBA openly declared that enhancing officiating would be a primary focus. They uttered it aloud. They made a commitment. They informed both players and fans that they were focusing heavily on making calls correctly and cleaning things up. What then took place? Griner sets up a moving screen, pushes her shoulder into Clark, and knocks her to the ground. The referee watches the entire scene without making a call. If there is any significance to that public pledge to improve officiating, then someone from the league office must come up and explain why the play did not result in a whistle. Fans are not requesting special treatment. Caitlin Clark is not being asked for a free pass on anything. They want the regulations to be applied consistently and fairly. That's it. And according to the evidence on the floor, it isn't occurring at the moment.
But Caitlin Clark is like the best in the world. So you are going to have a tough time. A lot of those shots Caitlin Clark made wasn't easy. They're contested. She's fading away from three. The girl's pulling up from Baghdad. I mean, what more could you do? Layla Lacan was fouling nonstop. She did all she could to try to slow down Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark still goes and gets 25 points without a single free throw. It's obvious she doesn't get, the whistles like Asia Wilson, Paige Beckers, Breanna Stewart, but that's neither here nor there.
This is the piece of the puzzle that the numbers prove to be indisputable. The Indiana Fever are dominating when there is fair refereeing, and Clark is able to play in a setting where everyone on the court is subject to the same rules. They had a convincing victory. Everyone is aware of Clark's exceptional performance level. However, as soon as the whistles stop, the entire dynamic changes as soon as rival players realize they may use physical force without repercussions. It's not a coincidence. That is a clear cause and effect link that occurs so often that it is no longer up for debate. Giving Caitlin Clark preferential treatment is not the goal of protecting her. In order for her to play the game of basketball that she has devoted her life to, it is about upholding the existing regulations.
Just allows this to happen repeatedly, day in and day out. Man shouldn't be allowed to play in women's sports. Damn. Dirty ass man playing in the W should have just left his stupid ass in Russian jail. God damn. All Steph White did was scream at Cece to get up. She never protects her players or stands up for her players. Get up, Cece, get up. It was just an elbow to the face by a 7-footer.
Now, rumors are starting to spread that Griner is being questioned regarding her behavior and her activities with Clark. The calls for actual repercussions are growing louder every day as reports and fan pressure mount from all sides. These aren't simply a few irate fans writing in all uppercase. This is a persistent, coordinated movement of supporters calling for significant action from the league. Suspensions are being demanded by some. Some are advocating for penalties. Additionally, a growing portion of the fan community is openly stating, if the pattern continues, Griner has no place in this league. Is that a theatrical interpretation? Maybe. However, you must comprehend the source of that energy. This is not a singular occurrence. In a competitive game, this is not a single poor play. In addition to on-camera conduct that raised serious concerns about what was truly being directed at Clark when the cameras happened to catch the right angle, there is a documented pattern of physical contact directed at a single player, along with officiating that has continuously failed to address it. When you add up all of that, the dissatisfaction becomes entirely understandable rather than dramatic.
But I've seen people be ejected for less. How's this to the head? If this was to the chest, bending down and shoulder charging, they've already shown. When Caitlin Clark did it, it was a flagrant one. That is the precedent that's been set. And now you're allowed not only do the same thing to Caitlin Clark and it's a no call, but you're allowed to do it to Caitlin Clark's jaw. So yeah, you are allowed to essentially shoulder barge Caitlin Clark and hit her with a damn haymaker. And it's a no call. Like, she is referee.
Something needs to be done. That's hardly an excessive response. When you consider the whole picture of what has been occurring to this player, that is the only sincere conclusion you can come to. These days, Caitlin Clark is more than simply a basketball player. She is the main force behind the expansion of the WNBA as a whole. Because of her, casual sports fans who have never seen a women's basketball game in their lives are suddenly setting tip-off reminders. Areas all throughout the nation are selling out because of her. Television deals are larger because of her. Discussions about sponsorship are taking place at a level the league has never seen before, and in a way that was unthinkable just a few years ago, the WNBA is now a part of the mainstream sports discourse. That was done by Clark. This league benefited from her skill, game, and presence. And in exchange, she receives this. The league silently tips its cap and proceeds to the next game as if nothing had happened, while the player is knocked to the ground on a moving screen without a call. That is unacceptable. Both this season and the previous one, it was unacceptable.
And runs through Caitlin Clark, foul on Caitlin Clark. They hate her, bro. Oh, what am I in store for here? What do we got here? Nothing about this is a basketball play. There is absolutely zero basketball play in this.
None of this has ever been turned into a public circus by Caitlin Clark. During press conferences, she avoids naming specific players. She doesn't vent her complaints on social media. She continues to compete at a top level, maintains her composure, and represents this league with a level of professionalism and dignity that most individuals in her position would have given up long ago. However, everything is visible to the supporters. The referee is standing there doing nothing while those fans witness Brittney Griner shoulder check their beloved player to the hardwood floor. Additionally, they are posing a single, very direct query. When will this end? Because if the WNBA fails to provide a genuine response to that question, supported by genuine action, genuine discipline, and genuine accountability, the fans will provide their own response using their focus, their viewership, and the volume of their voice on all the platforms that this league needs to remain relevant. And given what they have seen over the past 2 seasons, the WNBA ought to realize by now that when Caitlin Clark supporters choose to raise their voices, everyone stops and pays attention.